In this video, I'm going to show you how to host your own Discord bot on a VPS, how to properly secure that VPS, and then also how to set up automatic deployments so as you're releasing new updates for your bot, it automatically gets deployed and you don't have to manually upload each file. And this video is sponsored by Linode, who has partnered up with us to give you $100 in free credit to try out their hosting services, and so we're going to use that $100 to host your Discord bot. So go ahead and click on the top link in the description or in the pinned comment, and you should be sent to a page similar to this one. From there, you can sign up using any of these three options, and once you've made an account, you should be sent to a page similar to this. So go ahead and pause the video, make an account, and then come back and I'll walk you through the next steps. So assuming you already made an account, you should be on the Linode tab right here on the left, and afterwards we can click on Create Linode. This will create our own VPS, which we can log into and then host our bot from. So the first step is to choose a distribution. If I click on this, we have a number of different operating systems. You can select whichever one you're more familiar with, but I'm going to select Ubuntu 21.10, and then we can select our region. Typically, this will be the closest one to you, and so I'm going to select the California region right here. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we have a bunch of different plans as you can see here, but we're interested in the shared CPU $5 a month plan right here. This will be plenty for most Discord bots, but if you know for sure that you need a higher plan, then go ahead and choose that now. Next, we can scroll down further. We can assign a label to this VPS. Basically, this will be the name of your VPS within your Linode dashboard. So if you have multiple of them, I highly suggest naming them. And then here, we're going to have a root password. So I'm going to Google LastPass generator, and this is going to automatically generate random passwords, which we can then easily copy. And I'm going to save this into a temporary file here. That way, when I need it later on in the video, I can easily copy and paste it from here. So go ahead and copy this and then paste it inside a root password here. Within SSH keys, we can configure this here, but I'm also going to show you how to configure it within the VPS itself. So we're going to do that later on in the video. We can then scroll all the way down, and here we have a couple other choices that are optional. Go ahead and select these if you want, but I'm not going to use these in this video, and I'm just going to simply click on Create Linode right down here. Now our VPS is being created. As we see right here, it is provisioning, and this typically would take a few seconds. So I'm going to pause the recording until it's done. So now my VPS is set up, it says running, and now I want to connect to this using a software known as Bitvice. If you're familiar with SSH already and you have a preferred software, go ahead and use that. But if you're new, I suggest using Bitvice. It's a free download and a link to it can be found in the description down below. So once you have it installed and you open it, you will see a page similar to this one. Here, I'm going to start off by saving the profile, and I'm just simply on a Linode folder. You can save yours wherever you want, but I'm going to name this Bitvice. And this way I can very easily log into my VPS whenever I want by simply opening that file. Now, there are a few pieces of information we need. The first one is the host, which is our IP address right here. So go ahead and click on this copy icon and then paste that in right there. The port is going to be 22. The username is going to be root. And for the initial method, we want to select password. We can then check this box right here to store the encrypted password in the profile. And then we can go back and copy this password and then paste it right here. We can now save the profile and then click on OK. And then finally, we can click on Login. We get this pop-up right here. We want to click on Accept and Save. And now here we see authentication is completed, and we can click on New Terminal Console right here. And now we actually see the console for our VPS. Now, if you want the console to open up every time you log in, you can go to Options and then check Open Terminal right here. You can also open up the SFTP client if you want to upload or download files. But the way that we're going to be deploying things to our VPS is going to be different. We don't want to have to manually upload everything for each change we make. So I'm going to uncheck this, and I'm just going to keep the open terminal checked. From there, we're now logged in. I can use Control L or Command L on a Mac to go ahead and clear our console. And before we actually upload our Discord bot files, we want to do some basic security. Now, if you're already familiar with VPS security or you want to do this at a later stage, go ahead and use the YouTube player to skip to the next section. Although this will only take a few minutes and it does make your VPS more secure, so I encourage everyone to continue watching this section still. The first step is to make sure that we cannot log in using just a password and that we need an SSH key, which is much more secure. So to do that, we first need to generate one, which we can do with Bitvice by clicking on Client Key Manager right down here. From there, we can click on Generate New and then enter in a passphrase, which is basically a password that you'll have to enter every time you want to use your SSH key. So once you enter both of these, you can click on Generate. And then after it's generated, make sure that it is selected, and then you can click on Export. We want to use the Open SSH format, and then click on the Export button. And from here, I'm going to save this inside the same folder, and I'm going to call this file Key. I can then press Enter, and I can close this. And now within that folder, we see key.pub. I can go ahead and open this, and I can copy this entire thing, and then I can close this. So now we want to paste this at a specific part within our VPS. If I do ls space -a, we're going to see all files and all folders, even the hidden ones. And here we see a hidden .ssh folder. I can use cd space .ssh to change my directory into that folder. And now I can use ls. And here we see an authorized keys file. We want to edit this. So to do that, I can say nano space authorized keys. And we can also use tab to autocomplete the name so we don't have to type everything out. I can then press enter. And then here I can right click to paste in the key. At the bottom here we see Control X will exit this. So I can use Control X or Command X on a Mac. I can type in Y to save this and then press enter. Now that we have that, I want to make sure we can actually log in using SSH keys. And to do that, we have to change our SSH configuration. So I can say nano space /etc /SSH /SSHD_config. Now within here, we want to scroll down. We want to make sure that permit root login is yes. And then we also want to make sure that public key authentication is yes. Now I can do Control W and do a search for pass. Here we now see password authentication as yes. I want to change this to no. And then I can use Control X, type Y, and press enter to save that file. And then I can do systemctl restart SSHD. Now it's important to keep this terminal open just in case a mistake was made. You want the ability to still edit that file. So I'm going to open up a new instance of Bitvice using the same exact profile. And now if I try and log in using the password, we now see a pop-up here, basically meaning that we cannot actually connect. So now I can change the initial method to public key. The client key is going to be set to profile1, and then we can enter our passphrase. I could then save the profile, and then I can log in. And now it says authentication completed. I can open up a new terminal, and now we're logged in with an SSH key, which is far more secure than a standard password. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So that was the first of two things I want to do when it comes to securing this VPS. There are definitely a lot more things we can do when it comes to security, but these are the main two things that I think should always be done. And I do have an entire video dedicated on VPS security, which we will link down in the description. So here I want to set up my own firewall and make sure that only certain ports are open. So I could say UFW default deny incoming. And this will deny everything that is incoming to the VPS. I can also say UFW default allow outgoing. And this will allow all outgoing traffic, which is typically things that we're doing. Now, it's very important that we allow certain ports to be accessed. For example, port 22 right here. Otherwise, we will not be able to log into our VPS. So I could say UFW allow 22. And notice how I do not have the word default here. That's intentional. And now I can enable this by saying UFW enable. It's going to confirm. I could type in Y and press enter. And now we're still connected to the server, so everything is still working correctly. So SSH keys and a basic firewall are some of the basic fundamentals of VPS security, but I do have an entire video on VPS security that has more things you can do to make sure your VPS is secure. A link to that video can be found in the description, but all those steps can be done later on if need be. So I encourage you to keep watching this video and then go to that one afterwards. So now we're ready to actually move our bot onto our VPS. And there are two different ways we can do this. The first way is to open up SFTP and then navigate into our bot and then physically upload all of our files, excluding node modules because that will take a long time, and then run the bot that way. However, I don't recommend doing it this way because every single time you make a change in your bot, you're going to have to manually upload all the changed files and also manually delete all the files on your server if they're no longer needed. So instead, I'm going to set up a very easy way to make it so whenever you push to your GitHub repository, it will automatically pull the changes to your VPS and then restart your bot. So we can go ahead and close the FTP client. I'm going to go back one directory, so I am in my root directory here. And if I do ls, we see that we are in an empty directory, so we're going to install our bot right in here. If you don't have a GitHub account, go ahead and make one and then make a new repository, and you should be sent to a screen similar to this one. Here, the repository name, I'm simply just going to enter bot, but you can name yours whatever you want. And I'm going to make this private, so no one else will have access to it. I can then click on create repo, and here we have a bunch of commands that we want to actually use. So I'm going to open up my bot here, and I'm going to move this over to the right. And it's important that you have a .gitignore file like I have right here, and that you specified node modules and .env in there. That way, we're never pushing your node modules folder, which is massive, or your .env file, which has your token inside of it, to the actual repo. Later on, I'll show you different ways to gain access to both of these files and folders on your actual VPS, but for now, we want to make sure that they are never pushed to your actual repo. So I can say git init, and then git add star, and this is going to add everything. In this description right here, we're just adding a readme.md file, but I want to add everything, so I used git add star, and then I can say git commit -m. I'm going to say first commit. Then I can say git branch -m with a capital M, and then call this main. And then for these next two, I'm going to triple click on them to highlight everything and use Control C to copy. And then I can paste them in right here. And then back on the last line here, I could do the same concept. And then here I have to enter my passphrase. And now the entire bot is being pushed up to GitHub. To prove this, I can refresh on the repo. And here we see my index and my package.json files. So now the next step is to pull this bot onto our actual VPS. And we have one problem with that. For example, if we go to code, make sure SSH is selected and we click on copy here. Within the VPS, I can say git space clone space, and then I can paste in this. If I press enter, I can then type in yes. And here it's going to say, please make sure I have the correct access rights because this is a private repo. So we need to generate our own SSH key on this machine and then give GitHub that SSH key so this machine can actually access our repo. So in the description, you'll find a GitHub gist, which is basically just some text that I shared. And within here, we can copy some commands. The first command is going to be right here, which is going to help us create an SSH key. So go ahead and copy that and then go into your terminal and right click to paste. It's going to ask you for a file. Simply just press enter. And then for the passphrase, go ahead and press enter and then enter again. Now we can do ls and we see that nothing actually changed. But if we do ls space .ssh, we now see 3 new files. We have id_rsa, id_rsa pub, and known hosts. We want to copy id_rsa pub. So I could say vim space .ssh / id_rsa.pub. I can press enter. Then here I can easily highlight everything. And within your terminal, when you highlight things, it's going to automatically copy it. Now to exit this, we have to first press escape and then add in a colon. And now we see a colon here near the bottom left, and then simply press X and then enter. And now we have our SSH key copied to our clipboard. So I'm going to go back over to my bots repo. I can go to settings, then I can go to deploy keys, and I can click on add deploy key near the top right here. The title is going to be Linode tutorial. And then I can paste in the SSH key right here. And then I can click on add key. Now, if I go back into my VPS, I can use Control L to clear this. And I can use the up arrow to go back to previous commands. And here we're trying to clone our GitHub repo for our bot. I can go ahead and press enter. And now if I use ls, we see our bot folder is here. I can use cd to navigate into that folder, use ls again, and now here we have all of our files. And we can now install our node modules folder by typing npm install, but there's actually a problem here. We don't actually have Node.js installed. So now the next step is to install Node.js. And to do that, you can visit the gist I mentioned before, and we can simply copy this line right here. And then going back, we can right click to paste it and then press enter. Now this might take a few seconds. There's a lot of things happening. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording until this is done. All right, this is now done. I can type in node space -v and it's going to show 16.14.2. Yours might be different. This is just the latest version as of me recording this video. So now I can clear a console. I could type in npm space install. And this is going to install all the dependencies for our bots that are found in our package.json file. So now if I do ls, here we see we have our node modules folder. But now we still need our .env file. So if I go back into our project and I open .env, here we have the actual token for my bot. And don't worry, this will be reset after I'm done recording the video. Now going back into the VPS, I can type in nano space .env, and then I can right click to paste this in here. Obviously, if you have more things inside your .env file, you want to copy and paste all of them. And then from here, we can press Control X, type Y, then press enter. And now if I do ls, we now have a .env file, but it's actually hidden. So I have to do ls space -a. And here we see our .env file right there. So now we can technically run our bot. For example, I could say node index.js, and here it's going to say the bot is ready, but we want to make sure that this bot is ran all the time 24/7. And right now, if I close the console, the bot would stop. So in order to do that, I can use Control C or Command C on a Mac, and then we have to install something known as PM2. So I could say npm install -g PM2, and this will install this globally on our machine. And then from here, we're able to actually start up our own bot. So I could say PM2 start index.js, and this next part is very important. I could say --name space 2 quotes, and inside of those 2 quotes, I can say Discord, all lowercase, no spaces. The reason why this is important will be explained in a few minutes. Now, if I press enter, we now see this table right here. We can view this table anytime with PM2 list. Here we see the ID, the name of the process, if it's online, and this symbol right here doesn't actually render correctly on VPS servers for some reason, but this is how many times it's actually restarted. We then see our CPU and memory usage, And I can say pm2 logs 0, and we can now view the logs for the bot. I can use Control-C to exit this. I can say pm2 restart 0. That will then restart the process, and here we see that restart counter incrementing right here. I can then say pm2 stop 0, and now we see our bot is stopped, and then pm2 start 0 will also start this up again, and now we see it is online. So those are some basic pm2 commands, and our bot is now running 24/7, but we still want the ability to actually pull the changes from our GitHub repo and then deploy those onto our VPS automatically. That way, we don't have to manually upload each changed file one at a time. So to do that, I made a very simple project here, which will be linked in the description. You can go ahead and fork this and edit it to your needs. Basically, this is just a simple Express server, which will listen on a certain port. And whenever a post request is sent to there, it's going to automatically pull things from the GitHub repo and then restart the pm2 process. Now, a very important thing here is the default port for this will be 5074. And we currently have a firewall enabled if you did follow with the security steps. So we need to make sure that we whitelist that port. So I can say UFW allow 5074, and then we should be good to go. Now this project is actually public, so we can click on the name of the repo. We can actually clone it without having the need of an SSH key. I can click on code, select SSH, and then copy this right here. Going back, I'm going to say cd space ... to go back one directory. If I use ls, we now see that we are in the main root directory because we see the bot folder right there. I can then say git clone and then paste in the URL. And now if I do ls, we see our bot as well as auto deploy starter. So now I can navigate into here and I can run npm install to install all the necessary dependencies. And if I do ls, we now see we have our main file as well as our node modules. And now we're going to run this as its own pm2 process similar to our Discord bot. But one thing to note is we need the complete path locating our actual Discord bot files. So to do that, I first need to find where my bot files are located. So if I go back one directory and type in ls, here we see the bot directory. I can navigate in there and I can do pwd, and this will show me the entire path to try and find these files. So it's /root/bot. Yours might be different. Let's go back to the auto deploy starter. I can now say pm2 start index.js. We can give this a name if you want. So -- name space ... and then within here, I can call this webhook -server. Now the important part here is after this, we want space, 2 dashes, space, and then in quotes, we can now paste in the exact path to our actual bots. In my case, that is /root/bot. Yours might be different. And then go ahead and press enter. Now I can say pm2 logs 1, and this is the ID for the webhook server as you see right here. And this will now show the logs for our webhook server, which says it is listening on port 5074. So everything seems to be working. Let's now use Control-C to exit this. I can now use pm2 logs 0 to go back to our Discord bot, and here we see the bot is ready. Now the very last step is to set up a webhook on our Discord bot repo, and then have that webhook send push notifications to our actual VPS, which will then cause the server that we just set up to pull the changes and then restart our Discord bot. So keep in mind, right now it says the bot is ready. As we see right here in our main code, we see the bot is ready. But I'm going to change this here in a few moments. But first, let's make sure we have a webhook set up. So going back over to the repo for the bot, I can go to webhooks right here. I can then click on add webhook. And now the payload URL is going to be http:// do not include HTTPS. There is no S in this case. And now we can go over to Bitfy so we can copy this IP address here. Alternatively, you can go back and copy the IP address from the Linode dashboard right here. And then we can paste that in. Now to specify which type of port we're going to use, we can add in a colon, and then we're going to use the port that the default file has. So if I go back into index.js for my auto deploy starter, we are using port 5074. Obviously, if you changed your port, then you want to use your port instead. So going back, I can now say colon 5074, and then we want to just use the push event and then click on add webhook. Now, if I go back into my VPS, here we see the bot already restarted. We see that this push was successful because of this check mark, and we see that the bot now has this empty line because the bot already restarted once. But let's be 100% sure by changing the text that's going to be printed and then pushing that to our bot's repo. So going back into VS Code, I can now change the bot is ready to be sure to like and subscribe. And then when I save this and I go back into my console, I can now say git status. Here we see one file was modified. I can say git add star, git commit -m, and here we're going to say updated the text. And then finally git push, and keep in mind this console right here. So I have to enter my passphrase, and now behind the scenes it's automatically going to detect that, And now we see be sure to like and subscribe printed out, because now we've pushed our changes from our Discord bot to our GitHub repo, which will automatically make it update within our VPS.